Good evening and welcome to Today Tonight, and thanks for joining us. First tonight, the man who's long been the champion of buying Australian. Dick Smith has constantly begged Aussies to look after their own and buy local. At times, he's become deflated, even felt defeated, as more and more foreign goods flood our supermarkets. Well, tonight he's come out swinging, this time over German supermarket giant Aldi and its master plan for expansion. David Richardson has more.
They will just make a fortune out of Australia. They will rip the money out and laugh the whole time.
Every country in the world is promoting buying locally. What we're not doing is promoting locally and owned enough.
Buy Australian is a brand on its knees, and the champion of Australian-made and owned, Dick Smith, is back to resurrect it, fighting foreign ownership of Australian icons and continuing his decade-long crusade against the German supermarket chain Aldi.
It will be all disadvantage for Australia and all advantage for Germany. No wonder Germany is one of the most wealthiest countries on earth.
He built his own food brand, 100% Australian, Dick Smith Foods. He got it up, sold it, but has watched it slowly decay. The Dick Smith brand's annual turnover dropping from 80 million to 8 million in the past 5 years.
Dick is a proud Australian, and he is seeing what is happening to Australian-owned companies in this country.
Now Dick has returned to the grocery world again, buying back his Dick Smith brands, building a new plant, hoping to rouse Australians back to his anti-overseas banner.
I've done very well out of Australia, but I see terrible problems coming for future generations.
I applaud Dick for trying to start a movement about Australianism. However, it would be fair to say that when you're competing with the Audis, then your Australian products need to be the same quality and even better priced.
But the German chain Dick Smith began fighting a decade ago is now even stronger.
We're building another 25 new stores and we'll keep adding to that network year on year.
In 10 years, Aldi has taken over 5% of the grocery market, with their items Australian-made to their own secret recipes. The total grocery sector in this country is worth $71 billion a year. That's $3.5 billion to the Germans. Aldi's Libby Hay.
It's a great time for Aldi. We've been in Australia now for 10 years. We reinvest all our profits back into the Australian business.
With more of our fresh produce coming from overseas, and 90% of our supermarket items being made overseas or owned by foreign companies, it's tough for everyday shoppers to know what is dinky dye. Dick Smith hopes to change that, but will it work?
Dick Smith's got one of the best brands for himself in the country, but it doesn't necessarily apply to food.
Advertising and branding expert Rod Belgiovanni doesn't believe the Buy Aussie slogan is enough to sway consumers. Has the gloss gone off Buy Australian?
Was there ever a gloss on it? Being Australian gives you a little tick, but it's about 3 or 4 points down. Australians don't buy Australian just because it's made in Australia.
One of the problems we've got with this Buy Australia issue is that there are a lot of companies that are not Australian, that are pretending to be Australia, what we call the Akuba effect. So at the end of the day, the decisions are made overseas, the profits are taken away from here, and our jobs are at risk.
Lynn Wilkinson from AUSBUY believes Dick Smith is right. It's time to relaunch Buy Australian.
Every dollar you spend is either going to stay in this country and be reinvested, or the profits are going to go offshore, and you may not have a job tomorrow.
Dick plans to visit farmers direct to find a total Aussie source for all his groceries, and his war with overseas companies is definitely back on.
If you're hoping that just simply calling it Oz is going to do the trick, it won't, and every marketer knows that. That's the reality.